We'd like to thank all of you for coming as we talk about our trip to Mexico. Anybody remember the dates on that?
We left the 6th of January. We went into Mexico on the 9th. Come out the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just had you stand as you talk so everybody can hear you better. But our Mexico trip, they left on Monday, January 6th. And when I say they, is Gary and Kathy drove down to Phoenix. And then on Wednesday the 8th, the other 6 of us flew in to Phoenix and drove down from there. There were 8 of us who went on this trip to Mexico. We had the Wetzels, the Nielsen's, the Langs, and the Urfers. And I'll just do some opening comments about it. This is the same place that the youth went to 2 years ago. And we thought we'd go in the winter time when it might be warm there and cold here, but still cold there and cold here. And one of the things that we never expected was that week at this place where we stayed, we were the only group there. Only 8 of us plus staff there were the only ones, and the next week I think they had 150 or 250 people coming in. So we hit that 1 week after Christmas break, you might say, and people went back to school and nobody wanted to come, and here we show up. And so some of the jobs that we were giving were to finish up different houses. Before we went, we completed one whole house from beginning to end. This time they put us here to do this. And they said, you guys are moving faster than we expected. Now we got to come up with some more. So they put us to another house to finish it up or do some things. And then we went to a third house, and you'll be seeing pictures on that. Anytime you have questions right now, I'd just say, put your hand up and you can direct it to somebody here. But we do have a number of slides to go through, and we'll do that. Am I missing out on anything yet? I will. Some people might say, why? There's things you can do around here. Why do you have to drive all the way to Mexico? So I'll answer that in 2 things, and you might see that as we go through the slides. Sometimes it's good to see how other people live. We're used to living here. That's one thing. And in the end of Matthew, when it says go out and preach the gospel, he says go out into the world. We're going actually to another lifestyle, another way of people, and we understand that the whole world doesn't necessarily look at things the way that we do, so we kind of see the world through their eyes. I think that's important. I think faith kicks in a little bit more. I know there are some that maybe didn't go here because we're concerned about the conditions in Mexico for safety reasons. So when you just go from here to a local place, you don't worry about that. You're in the same environment. Here we actually are putting a little more faith into God for His protection when we learn about things like this. And we learn to get together as a group a little better. We hold together and bond together because we're all in this together, this one mission, this one thing, and we're just one going forward to serve the Lord. So we take off, and Joel put these together. So Thursday, January 9th, we come to the border crossing day, the first day. This is, we're leaving Phoenix in the morning. We get in a van that we rented, and we're headed down. And so this is probably us loading up the van at the hotel to head down, and a picture as we leave in safety. And Joel had a certain place he wanted us to all go eat to get the experience. You guys remember what the name of that is? I think this place, In-N-Out Burgers, originated in California. And here they had one in Phoenix. So, what do you guys think?
It was good.
It was good. It was fast food, just like we had.
The places, there's some things that Joel picked out and others that we wanted to do. And so Marky would kind of rate them. That's why I think she just gave a rating to that. So Joel likes to add something to the trip as well as something else that we'll see. Next slide. Uncle Sam's cooking. That must be MREs. So, on our way out of Phoenix, he wanted to go to a military supply store. And he told them down there, he says, now, when you show up on Thursday night, we don't have any other groups here, so we can come fix you supper, or you can have supper on your own. Joel thought, let's have supper on our own. Let's go to this supply store and buy these MREs. Can somebody tell me what MRE stands for?
Meals ready to eat. Oh, you talking about this?
Thank you, Roy. Were you on this trip?
I was in the military.
Meals ready to eat. So you get this little bag with little things. So would somebody like, Gary, why don't you come up and talk about MREs because you're in the military.
I was in the military, and when I was in many years ago, they were sea rations, and maybe some of you know what them are. How to heat them up, they was all in cans, and you'd set them on the motor of a vehicle to warm it up, and that's how you ate it. These come in a bag. There's separate bags. There's one bag that's like a heater, and you break it and mix it together, and it gets really, really hot. And you stick the whatever food you want to eat, mac and cheese or whatever it may be, in that bag, leave it set for not very long, a minute, and that is extremely hot. I don't know how it works, but it does. It's very good if you like what's in the bag. But it's an experience that several of you, or some of you maybe, have experienced in the Army, so everybody got a taste of the Army. And I always said everybody in their lifetime ought to spend 1 year in the Army just to see what people live like when they're in the military. So it was very good. We had it that evening for the meal. So.
Okay, let's hear the next one. And it seems like we're waiting for meal. We get some people having some fun. So Patty, would you like to tell us what's going on here?
Jim was causing problems.
That's probably hard for all of you to believe.
He was throwing popcorn, I think it was, up in the air and trying to catch it with his mouth. And so then he put it on my forehead. just goofing around.
Did we explain what our purpose of going to Mexico was? So when you see a lot of these slides, maybe you'll wonder, really, what did we do in Mexico? So
This is the bonding.
Yeah.
that's part of the bonding part. Conditions in Mexico. The first house we went to, this is their living conditions. Did anybody go in this trailer? Gina, you want to tell me about the kids? You want to say something about them?
And the mic.
Oh.
Yeah, please. People want to watch this, that's why.
They were very clean. You wouldn't think that by looking at their camper, but those kids would always come out every morning. Sometimes they would have different clothes on because we had one little one put his foot in the plaster with his tennis shoe. His mom didn't get mad. Now, I would have gotten mad, but she just takes it off and washes it. And they do their laundry outside, which it took me several days to figure out why there was a wash machine out and had like a hose, like with the kettle water, and that's how they did their laundry. But these kids were always clean, smart. We just couldn't believe how smart they would sing. They drew pictures for us girls, and the mom she's a new mom too, the 3 little kids, and then a little cousin that come over, and he worked just as hard as we did. He was what, 8? But they were just a great family, and the dad was a quiet guy.
Yeah. So we just have some slides here.
Just a minute, Mark.
Yep.
One thing I've seen, and we're going to see in a lot of these pictures, these people don't have a lot, and they make do with what they have in front of them. And I know that's Kathy sitting there eating an apple, but okay, you can't see it in that picture, but when you talk about the washing and stuff, their clothesline was a piece of barbed wire. They had it strung up, and I went over and looked at that, and it was real barbed wire like we got. So they just make do every day of what they have in front of them. So this house is a blessing for them.
I'm just going to show some pictures here that we had. I don't know why it's not advancing, so we'll... I'd like to go back. Tim, maybe I'm going to have to switch out. Can we go back a couple pictures? Okay, what he shows here and what we have are two different things. Okay. I'd like one of you to I'll talk about this. We talk about their conditions. We went to that first house. Joel, we're on like about slide 6. But when we went there, the last two houses that we went, no, the first house that we went to, the people were living near the water treatment plant. So can somebody describe to me what the air smell? Molly? Marky? It stunk. Can anybody describe how bad it stank?
We were concerned we were going to have to be there 3 days and smell that.
And so why were these houses being built by the water treatment plant? They were moving them away from the railroad. That's where all the homeless people were. So they moved from the water treatment plant area to a place where nobody else wanted to live because the smell is so bad. Was it worse than the chicken farm?
Equal to.
Yeah.
Equal to or like right next to the chicken farm. So when we went there to start working, it's kind of like you wish you had a mask or something like that, and yet after a while you get used to it like you do in those situations. But so we're working that, but their location, their conditions. Joel, I'm going to have you take over. I've had a couple of them. If this don't work, I'm going to go get you another one. We're starting here on Friday, January 10th.
It works. Okay. Has anybody been up to the microphone?
Everybody has.
No.
I know who to pick on next. Okay, so we got down there and we told you a little bit about the living conditions in Mexico. And so we were ready for work day. Each day before we went to the job site, they would feed us breakfast, and it was just, the food there is incredible. There would be more food pictures because I'm a millennial. And also because the food was great. Tim, you have a question?
Was there tongue exercises or something?
What?
Was there tongue exercises or something? I see somebody exercising, and I just wonder.
Okay. That's not the last shot like that you will see in a slide deck. And so, yeah, they would feed us breakfast, and the foreman would come eat with us, and then we'd all take off together for the job site. And when we got there, this is Daniel and Maria Lopez Alcazar's house that was being built. So we are the fourth crew to work on this house, and we are putting on the finishing touches. And so these houses are styrofoam block formed, and well, they pour the foundation and then form up the walls of styrofoam block, and then pour the walls in. And so on the outside walls and the outside interior walls all receive coats of cement bond, which is a lot like stucco, just thinner and stickier, and a little smoother. And so the cement bond and fiber mesh, and so that's how they're coated and sealed. And so go ahead, Tim.
When you guys went there last time, you built a wooden structure. Are they changing their way
Yes.
of building?
Yep, they did a new model, and so they found they wanted to build a nicer house. And so this is what they landed on. They're able to locally source the cement that they use for the walls and the styrofoam block, and they're very, we'll get a chance to tell you, but one mission is all about lifting up the community of Puerto Penasco, and so for them being able to find local sources for these building materials was a big deal. And so when they were able to find local sources for the styrofoam forms and for the cement, and that they could do with price. They changed the housing model, so it's nicer. Anyway.
How deep was the foundation?
This one looked like deeper than the one we poured. So at least
6 to 8 inch.
I don't know how much of the footing we were seeing at the front, but there was like 10 inches of concrete. There's probably some footing there, but it's deep. A lot of concrete. I don't know if they mixed the foundations by hand or not. We didn't get in on that part. No cement for us. What we ended up doing right away is working on the final coat of cement bond inside. And so we kind of split into 2 crews. And then one crew was doing cement bond, final coat inside and a final coat outside on this house. And so you see Kathy there, and these guys on the inside we worked top to bottom on the final coat, and on the outside we were always working bottom to top. But here they are putting on cement bond, and to tell us what it's like to put cement bond on the wall and make it stick, I'm going to ask Gina Erfer to come to the microphone. Go ahead. Gina was cement bond crew the whole time we were doing cement bond.
You give us a name. What was it?
Oh,
It's not a very nice name. We didn't like it, did we, girls?
they were the trowel trolls.
We were very good at it. But Marky here loved to do, actually, I like to do it better than the sheetrocking, filling nail holes and stuff. But you do work up some muscles. And we did a lot of advertising. We had Circle U advertised, KDK was advertised, Madison Church was advertised.
What was putting cement bond on like? Was it any other construction stuff you've done, or,
Well,
or
yeah.
how can you describe it to these people?
Well,
who
if
may
you've
not
ever
have
poured
done
in
it before?
cement, you know that it can be really heavy and stuff, but you're kind of holding, I want to say, what's the name of it called?
I called it a charger. A flat tray.
A flat tray.
With the handle underneath.
Okay, so you scoop it up and you put it on there, and it weighs a lot. And then you've got, some of us had big handles that we held onto, some was small. Well, by the time you would fill your platter again, you couldn't only go like this because your hand was stiff, right, girls? So it was heavy, but we got a knack for it, and I kind of enjoyed it. You really loved it, and I couldn't figure out why, but then we all liked it, and then some of us had it in our hair because the other people was above us dropping it on us. But it's definitely a trick to it because there was other people that had done the first coat, and I must say that we did a better job.
Okay, so those are the trowel trolls, and then this is Gary. We're working on drywall. The first thing, half of the crew was working on drywall when we got there, and the first thing we had to do that they told us about was there was a lot of ceiling panels. The ceiling drywall had been installed, nothing else, and there were a bunch of the people who installed it probably hadn't done drywall before. There were lots of drywall seams with no studs behind them, so it couldn't be attached. And so what they wanted to do is cut them all out on the edge of the studs. And so there would have been like 7 or 8 places where we would have had to cut out drywall and then cut a piece to put in there, and then you'd have to tape those 4 new seams. And it just seemed like too much. So we found a way around that. We crawled up into the ceiling and framed around where the drywall seams were. And just the problem is very low clearance ceiling, so it was a little tight. And you just sit up there and you'd measure the boards you need, and then you'd have Mark and Jim cut them for you, and they weren't very fast, so you had time to doodle. And no power saws, and I think they measured 3 times and cut 4, and here is Jim, drywall crew extraordinaire. I think me and Jim and Mark were on drywall crew, and then Gary was kind of a switch hitter. He was half trowel troll and half gypsum man. So,
You had a name too.
what's that?
You had a name too.
What?
Stands there and talks a lot.
That would make him the foreman.
Mark. No, that was Mark.
Yeah.
This is lunchtime. Let's change the subject. For lunch, when we were on the job site, we just had a sack lunch that we packed in the morning, and we just find a place to sit and eat. And it was 60 degrees and sunny, and so we had a good time sitting outside and eating. We've already shown you this picture. I forgot to take it out here. This is the trailer that Daniel and the Lopez Alcazar family lived in, and so then there you see kids. I think, is that Daniel or Damian? I don't know. And Maria. No, it's pretty bad. In the earlier picture, you would have seen the back of it where it was kind of scabbed together with plywood,
It looks
the holes in it.
that picture than it really is.
And so no, it was not. It was not enough for them to live in. It was 5 people in there as well. So, probably not enough square feet. And this is Maria. And I think now I have some slides that will just show you a bunch of the kids that were with us the whole time and when we were at this house, and they were a blast. They're adorable and hilarious, and they would try to speak English with us and teach us Spanish words, and we were doing the same. Maria loves to pose for pictures, so you'll see her often. So that's Maria, and I don't have a bunch of kid pictures. Okay. These are the trowel trolls now work their way outside. And here they are putting the final coat of cement bond on the exterior of the house. And so this has got to be the smoothest job with trowels, and then it gets sponged over when it's still wet. And that is the end of workday number 1. So we went and did drywall and cement bond, and it went faster than they were expecting. They expected us to be at this house for all 3 days. That's not how it ended. Now we're going to go to day 2. And here I'm going to have Jim Urfer come up and tell us what it was like to drive around Puerto Penasco, Mexico.
Driving around
Yeah.
Puerto Penasco.
Tell us what that was like, and maybe what your job was and how well you did it.
As you can see, I was the navigator, and we did real well as long as Joel listened. But he usually has a mind of his own, and he goes where he wants to go. Puerto Penasco, I believe the average population of dogs per square block is 12. They were everywhere.
We decided it was 60,000 people and 60,000 dogs.
Yes, a lot of dogs. All malnourished, I believe. They was all skinny and just kind of ate what they could find along the street. What else?
The road conditions. What about the conditions of the road? Yeah.
Road conditions were,
and navigating with signs and stuff. Yeah.
I don't remember half of that, but the roads were not well graded, not very smooth, very rough. Felt like he's kind of going over a roller coaster at times. Signs, I don't remember the signs. Anybody remember the signs?
Well, we would look at gas stations as a place where to turn, but then that same gas station showed up
There was like
again
that
and again.
same gas station about every 2 blocks, so we couldn't use that as a landmark. So Joel did real well of plugging in where we was going and drove us right there. So yeah,
The highways were concrete or dirt?
a little of each, Dave. There was anywhere from dirt to gravel to
Mud.
mud,
Yeah.
powder. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Jim was supposed to notify me of the stop signs we were approaching. And we had some
But
problems
as I
with it.
mentioned earlier,
Hi, Jim.
Joel didn't always listen real close.
Well,
Kind of got a mind of his own.
I don't know if how well you guys remember what we talked about last week, but Jesus told Nicodemus, the wind goes where it pleases. You do not know from where it comes or from whence it is going. Okay. And, okay, now, here's where I should have had Jim talk. One of the last things we did here at this house was fix their attic access, and it was just a point of frustration for us because the foreman for One Mission wanted us to do it one way, and it was just a terrible idea. And we tried to talk him out of it a number of times, like 10 times, and to do it our way, and he didn't want to, so we just gave up and did it his way. And people like me and Jim were not willing to participate in that endeavor, so you see Mark here fixing the fixing the roof access just the way that One Mission wanted it.
So we need to clear the air a little bit on this, Joel.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I want to make sure the story's right.
I had a perfect way of fixing the solution.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
No, we didn't. I did. Joel wanted to do it the way the contractor wanted to do it.
I was
So-
trying to make peace. Obviously, your idea was better.
With the contractor,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yeah, I see the real peacemaker has joined us as well. What would you
Well,
like to say?
I'm just saying, when we go to build their house, we should do it the way they want it, not the way we think is easiest out. We already did that at the attic when you went up and...
Well, it wasn't just easier, it was also better.
So sometimes you have God's way, and sometimes you have Joel's way, and other ways.
Jim's way.
But usually it ends up Joel's way.
I don't know about that.
As soon as you guys can play.
Okay, so after the trowel trolls were done with cement bond, they were looking for something to do, so we started mudding and taping. They don't always do this. They had to had a truck come deliver mud and tape for us. And so we started putting on joint compound and joint tape. So our trowel trolls picked up taping knives. And so here they are. There's Maria with a taping knife and Marky with a taping knife. Both of them are scary things to consider. Okay. And this is how we left their house. We were supposed to be here for 3 days, but we got done. We're good at troweling and we're good at drywall. And so we worked fast. And the inside of their house was sheetrocked and ready to go. There's One Mission hires a person to come to each house after they finish, and he will touch up all the cement bond. And then he installs the windows, and he also paints the house. And so that is a contractor, a full-time position at One Mission of a guy that follows up on these crews, and they don't let the volunteers do the very last touches to the house, and because they want the people to have a nice house.
How big is this house outside the bench?
I could look it up in the construction manual, but I can't remember right offhand. Twice as big as the one we built last time.
30 by 40 is what my guess would be.
30 by 40. It's Jim's guess. And
Wasn't that big, Gary?
Gary's willing to disagree with Jim. I've learned not to. Sneak up on the microphone.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, you're welcome. And more shots of the Lopez Alcazar home when we left. Okay, then we got taken out to a place they call the Dunes, which is just kind of a place on the north side of Port Penasco, outside of town, where I think basically the only neighborhoods are the houses. There's just tons of One Mission houses and trailers and shacks in this neighborhood. It's just kind of an open, empty space in the desert where you can build a house. And so kind of hard to navigate. But we got out there to a house that was ready for drywall. All the cement bond here was done, and because the person who this house was being built for, who was there in the red sweatshirt, and I really don't remember these guys' names. I don't know if any of you guys do, but that's his house here in the red sweatshirt. He's the father of the household, and he does cement bond all the time. And so he's really good at it. So he did a lot of it himself. And that's his son there in the black shirt, working with Daniel, a foreman from, I think that's Daniel. starts with a D, foreman from One Mission. And so they were helping us. Most of what we did here was sheetrock and taping compound. And it was kind of fun getting this job site because we had gotten through the awkward stuff of not knowing exactly what to do or what to do in these houses on the first house. And so when we got out of the vehicle at this house, we all hit the ground running. And things were happening so fast. And we were just all trying to keep up with each other. And we really worked lightning fast in this house. It seemed like a rush. We were there for 3 hours and got a lot done. Here are more trowel trolls with taping knives. And then it was time for the fiesta. So who's going to tell us about the fiesta? Patty Lang is going to tell us about the fiesta.
Fiesta. So we had it was just the first family that came, right?
Yep.
We had the first family that we worked on the house for came that night, brought all of the family and the mother as well. And they had special food. Well, it wasn't special, it was good, like the rest of it, Mexican food. We sang some songs, and we got to know the family a little bit better. And Daniel, or is it Daniel? Is that the dad?
Yep.
He was pretty quiet, and he was gone some of the time, so we didn't get to know him as much. But I guess he is a deep sea diver. And he puts on the whole thing and goes down deep. And I think he told somebody in a good week. Do you remember how much he said he made?
$100.
He makes, in a good week, he makes like $100 a week. And that's what they live on. Now, I don't know what I like scallops and I don't know, things that are down low. He brings them back. This is the whole crew. And yes, go ahead.
You're doing a fine job.
Now I'm forgetting stuff.
No, one part that I remembered about the husband of the first family, he's a fisherman. On a good weeks, make $100. But he would go out into water up to 180 feet deep, and he'd strap on a lead belt weighing 70 pounds or 80 pounds to get him to the bottom of this ocean, or water. So.
Okay, yeah.
He was working with a compressed, with an air tube from the ship. And yeah, he would go down and harvest scallop and other stuff to eat, seafood.
Was the house piped for water?
What's that?
Did the house have interior water supply?
No.
Or did they have to carry it?
No, that's an interesting question. There's nothing built in to the foundation or walls for water line. And so there wasn't. There was drainage built in the bathroom, but I believe they would bucket flush. And but no water.
At the dunes, each of the dwellings we saw, they had a big water tank outside, and I think they have a water truck come around, and that's how they give them water. So you get a tank full of water, then you can use that for drinking, for washing and all that. So rather than pipe water in from, in the ground and have all that underneath, they're delivering water, and they probably have to purchase it then.
I just want to flip back. I feel like I missed some pictures. See on, I don't know if you can see it, Tim, but on my sheet there is a slide in between this one and the next one and the previous one. Even when I hit back, I get nothing. So
That's the slide after the one you're talking about.
so I'm talking before. You want to go back to? See, there should be a picture of us standing with the family in front of their house at the very end. Okay. I'm not sure why that's not showing up, but we'll go with the pictures we have. Okay. Fiesta was fun. What's his name? You guys remember the Yankees hat?
Carlos?
No.
Leo?
Carlos is in the middle. That's one of our foremen.
Leo.
Leo, yes.
Partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think battery's gone in here. Maybe not. It's advancing slides. I just can't get the laser to work. Okay, last day, Sunday. Normally crews just work Sunday morning and then they go back across the border at night. We wanted to make this trip a little longer and we wanted to go to a local worship service. And instead of, so we wanted to experience church in Mexico. And we had an awesome time doing that. It was fun. They translated for us, even though I told them they didn't have to do that. And it was a blast. They liked their music loud. And it was really fun. I think we did stop to work a little bit in the morning before we went to church. We finished up at house number 2. And then this is us at church with Pedro, who is the Mexico country coordinator for One Mission. And that's Pedro there in the jacket. And so that's us coming into the church service.
How far away from where you were building was this church?
This church was only like 4 or 5 blocks away from the first house we were working on. Oh, very close. And just in a residential neighborhood in what they would call the barrios, the neighborhoods. And so that's where it was, in Puerto Penasco. And this is the worship team. They played loud, really fun music, and they did actions, and it was exciting and loud. And some of the songs, I think they played 2 songs that we would recognize here. So you recognize the melody, and you know the words you would be singing in English, and we're singing in Spanish, and it was fun. Yeah. For some reason, I'm missing pictures. But this is house number 3. And house number 3 had just had 2 crews that had been there. So their foundation is in. You see the styrofoam block walls there that don't have any cement bond on them, but they have been poured. And then the roof rafters have been built, and the roof has been sheeted. They build all the rafters on site. Something we don't do a lot here. And our job here was to put on the first 2 coats of cement bond on the outside. And so we did this on Sunday afternoon. It was a shorter work day. This was the hottest of all the work days, and it felt fantastic. It was just, the sun was beating down on us. It was wonderful. And so this is where the drywall crew had to assimilate into the trowel troll tribe and learn how to run a trowel. And it was a rough transition for us, and some of the more experienced trowel trolls, like Marky, were making fun of us.
Time, and he's trying to tell me what to do.
If she would have listened, it would have worked.
I don't understand why you do it like this.
So one of the trickier parts is to put on this fiber cloth that goes on in the first coat of cement bond. And so somebody was cutting that into like 4x4 sheets, and then it would dip it in water so it was damp, and you would stick it on there, and then you had to trowel cement bond on over it after it was pressed down onto there, and then covered up. And so we work from the bottom to the top. Marky, do you want to talk about troweling cement bond? And no? Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's fun. It's heavy. You know, it's messy. It's extremely messy. Don't get it on your skin; it'll burn. So I had some burns on my arm, and you just have to figure out. I don't know. You start kind of trying to apply it one way, and end up figuring out how to do it, or being helped with that. So.
Marky
I don't know, I enjoy
I
it.
did not.
I did enjoy it.
I would much rather do the mudding on the tape on the sheetrock.
No.
What was that cloth for? You cloth blank for?
Just to strengthen the cement bond. Yes. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh.
So I need to know why everybody laughs when I walk up here. Marvin, answer that question, please.
Because
Good enough. I was gonna say this Bondo stuff, it's mixed in a 5-gallon bucket, so you can make different consistencies of it, meaning thicker, runny, or whatever. It seemed to work, if you get the right consistency, it works a little better than runnier or thicker, so there's kind of a trick to getting it the right consistency.
And the frustrating part is that no matter how many times you trial it over, you're never going to get it on smooth, line free. And every time you try to fix a line you left behind, you leave a new one. Now, the answer to that is the final coat, where you put it on thin and wet, and then you sponge it. But we weren't there yet, but we still wanted to make the wall smooth. And because if you leave a line in too big, and it dries, there's no hope for ever making it look smooth. And so that part is frustrating to me personally. To leave a line, I bet she could too. She seems to think so.
Let's reach over and
This is us. This is us with family from house number 3, and there were 4 of them that were there with us. And I believe you saw a picture earlier that Mark was supposed to tell you about of the place where they were living, which was about the size of my office, made with pallets and tar paper. And so pallets, tar paper on the outside, a hole in the ground bathroom, cordoned off by a curtain, and 4 people. And so that's where they were living, and they were getting a house built by one mission, and we got to be a part of that. And it's very special. So because groups normally leave on Sunday, normally we don't get food. Normally they're not cooking food for supper on Sunday, but they did for us. And they seemed very grateful that though our group was smaller, we paid the minimum group fee, which I guess everybody's supposed to, but maybe not everybody does. So they were happy to feed us, and I'm glad that we had them cook supper for us on Sunday, because it was like an off-schedule dining event for the cooks, which means that, normally they have a set menu, and so Sunday night they were freestyling, and they spoiled us. Some of the best food I've ever had in my life. All kinds of great stuff. I don't even remember what it's called, but there's at least one tostada in there, and there's a chili rellenos there. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but Bethany knows. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And food there is fantastic. It is worth going for the food alone. Hold on. There was supposed to be a picture there of Patty raising her hand. It was Marky's favorite picture the whole trip, and that's too bad. But one of the fun things we did is we played a game called Silent Football. And Silent Football is a game that I've been playing for 12 years. I learned it from a youth group that I visited that Marky's brother was leading, and it's just a really fun game where there are all kinds of silent motions. Okay, and in fact, I'm going to challenge the people behind me now. Okay, so I'm going to ask for a silent football move on the count of 3, and when I say 1, then you are going to have to perform the move that I request. Okay, all at once. 3, 2, 1, schmoogans. No. Only Marky performed it correctly. Gina performed a zap, but she performed it with her right hand, which is incorrect. A rules violation. Anyway, you pass the motion around a circle, and you can't speak, and there are a lot of formalities related to how to report rule violations and things like this, and there's a game master, and there are no winners in this game, there's just a loser. Okay, that's why it's one of my favorite games. But the loser at the end, who performs the motions incorrectly, has to do a penalty that the whole group agrees on. And so we were in the mood to make people dance in Mexico. The loser on the first night was Kathy Witzel. So that's where this video comes from. That is the Macarena, in case you couldn't tell. Okay. But the second night, a different Witzel was the loser of silent football. And Gary had to do a dance, and I saw something from Gary Witzel that I had never expected to see. And he took this opportunity to dance, and he shined like a brilliant star in the sky. And it was glorious, and I'll let you watch it in its entirety.
Okay, go.
Gary made Leo dance with him because if we were being honest, then everybody knew that Leo lost the game. He did not understand a single rule that we were playing with. But so that's Gary and Leo, and I want to get done with this so I can leave time for questions. So we had a fun day on Monday, and so we left, departed one mission in the morning. That's the picture we took when we left the base camp. We went to the beach there in Puerto Penasco. There's kind of a boardwalk place, a market, and it's a tourist destination in Puerto Penasco, and so that we just took a stroll down the streets. We stopped and shopped at some markets where you could buy vanilla, so I don't have the market picture. This is a bittersweet memory for a lot of us who went on the trip. We went to a local restaurant to eat, and we made sure to look at the reviews on Google to make sure the food was good and did not poison people. But we ate here at Mary's Restaurant, and it was beautiful right there on a balcony over the ocean. And the only problem is that a lot of us had the shrimp because they harvest it right there in the bay, and we thought we would eat fresh caught shrimp. And then, does anybody want to stand up and speak about the illness we received and suffered for the next month when we arrived back in the United States? So, we just got sick. And what? Oh yeah, it's delicious. Yes. Now, where I grew up calling this illness Montezuma's Revenge, but I never imagined I'd live somewhere next to a town called Montezuma, and you guys would confuse that like a basketball game or something. No, it's a stomach illness. And let's see. We went to the beach, not just the boardwalk, and the brave, cool ones, like me and Kathy, we got in the water. And I was a little disappointed that everybody else just kind of walked to the beach and then stood in a circle and talked to each other. And we were told that the water was going to be too cold for us to swim, but the water was warm. It would be a warm swim in Iowa. It was just cold to the natives of Puerto Penasco. And okay, then on our way out, we made sure to cross the border before sunset so that we could go to this place. This is Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, just north of the border into America in Arizona.
I thought maybe that was you crossing the border.
No. That would be a funny picture. No, we crossed the border in a van. And the customs officer did look at our passports this time, which is different than 2018. But so we went here and hiked, and it was gorgeous. And it was just amazing. It was just a 1.2 mile loop trail. It took us like 3 hours. But it was just beautiful. We watched the sunset there. And this is the picture that Marky said we should take. So I guess, I don't know. But then we turned around, and that seems like a better picture. And that is our mission trip. And so now I would love for you guys to ask some questions about our trip to Mexico.
What did the guy get there with the 80-pound weight around his waist? What was his purpose?
He was after seafood. He would harvest seafood. So scallops and, I don't know, crabs, lobsters. Scallops is what I remember him telling us that he got a lot of. But go ahead, Carter. When can you go? Great question. We are going to plan. We're going back to Mexico, and so we'll do this. And I hope to do it regularly. And I would like every iteration of youth group kids that we have to be able to come to Mexico with us. And our next trip, I'm planning for the very beginning of June in 2022. And so I'd love to take our youth group, and we'll drive down like we did in 2018. But I would love to have a group of adults who they could drive with us if you want to sleep on church floors on the way there and back. Or you could fly into Phoenix, and because what we need on the job site with teenagers is some people to show them what to do. And they want to work when they get there, but a lot of times there isn't enough of people running around showing them what they can do to be helpful for them to stay engaged. So we need your help, and we would love for you to come to Mexico with us in 2022. Any more questions?
What was that body of water that you were on the shoreline of?
The Gulf of California. So the Gulf that sticks up in between the Mexican mainland and the Baja Peninsula. Puerto Penasco is right on the fingertip of that body of water. Go ahead.
How do these families get selected? Do they have to buy the homes, or does one mission choose them, or who decides who gets the houses?
Do you guys, anybody remember? You want to talk? Gary, go ahead.
I remember some of it. These people have to put in, and I think it's 400 hours of community service before they can get their name put on a list to get a house built for them. They also have to participate in building it. We didn't probably get a good picture of that, but they do have to help a little bit. Very little, but they do help. It's a great organization. It's very well run, very well funded. And like Joel said or Mark, I guess, said group of 150 or so was coming after we left. This is kind of ongoing for them. So it's a wonderful place to go. I know I got asked, why did we go? And a lot of it is the people. The majority of it is the people that you help. And they appreciate what they do, just by a smile, even talking to you. But they do have to earn their way into this. They just don't have it, and they have it given to them. Part of our money that we paid to go down there went to the building materials. I don't know what percentage it was, but a lot of our money went to building materials for these people. They are extremely appreciative of everything you do. And that's what makes it gratifying to go on a mission trip, is to see people appreciate what you do for them. They don't stand there and look at you and do whatever they want to do. They're there to help you also. So that's what makes it gratifying.
Gary, do you have any idea what they do for that $400?
It's different things. It's just in the community. They want to get self-sufficient. Sewing, I can't remember.
We had that night of the fiesta, we had, was it too late? We had a couple ladies come, and one of them liked to sew things. And so she would sew things, and she actually brought some of her things there, and I bought a dress. Did you buy one? For a little girl. She raised vegetables, so she brought some vegetables, and we bought some of her vegetables to give to the family that we helped out. So it's just wherever their talent lies, maybe baking or just whatever. But
One was a nurse, correct, Patty?
Yeah.
one was a nurse, yeah.
I'd say there was probably at least 10 or 12 different things that they do in the community to help one another. So it's ongoing.
And I believe they have to, Joel can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they have to pay for the land.
$3,000.
They do? Okay, they pay for the land that the house is on. So they do.
35 by 40, $3,000.
If you stop and figure it up, our land around here is dirt cheap. And they are buying desert. It's what they're buying.
Yeah.
And I think it was 3,000 to 4,000 that they pay for their lot, which is not a lot bigger than the house that's sitting on it.
Can I share one thing? This is something I really hadn't shared with many in our group, but the thing that got me the most was the day we went to the beach and we went to the market, and it's slow season there, so there wasn't very many people around. So as you're walking down the market, everybody's coming out wanting you to come into their store and buy things, in the restaurants and everything. And you kind of hate to tell people no, but you can't stop every place. So I was looking for some gifts for the kids, so I stopped at one place and I was going to get a little shawl for Jovi. Then I saw another one that I thought would be nice for Clara. Then I thought, well, I can't just buy 2. I need to buy 3. And when you buy stuff, you usually barter with them. You usually don't pay the price. And so I finally said, well, if I buy all 3 of these, would you take this much money? And it was an elderly lady, and she goes, yeah, I'll take that. And as she's putting it in the bags for me, this got me, but she turned around and she did like the cross. She was like this. And I'm so glad I got it, but I kind of wish at that time I had just paid the full price, because I know for her it was like $50, but to her that was probably, I don't know how many weeks, was going to keep her going for a while. And that just really got me, and it's another way you go back and you just say how good we have it here, and you just need to pray for the people down there.
I got a question about desert, and then I heard gardens. So which is it? How do you raise gardens in a desert?
It can be done. I don't know.
Do they carry water into the plants?
I would assume yes. Just one thing I wanted to share real quick. It's 10 o'clock, but just kind of carry on what Patty said. We was in this market, and Kathy and I wanted to buy some presents for our grandkids. So anyway, we bought some necklaces or ankle bracelets or whatever, and it just so happened, I think we had our shirts on, or we told him that we was with One Mission, and his eyes just lit up. He says, my house was built by One Mission. And he was so thankful and grateful. He thanked us for doing what we're doing. So it's just little stories like that kind of tug at your heart, like it did Patty's, and it tugged at all of our hearts. Everything that transpired in the entire trip from home to home.
When people want to volunteer with One Mission to have a house built, One Mission will just ask them, what do you know how to do? What are your skills? And how can you help our community? And so whatever they say, One Mission will try to facilitate that. So a lot of times that means taking the skill this person has and having them host a class where they're educating people in their community, or they'll hook One Mission up with 1 or 2 other people that want to learn that skill, and this person has to spend a certain number of hours teaching that skill to somebody. Or a lot of times people will help prepare food in the cafeteria when they have bigger groups. Sometimes we were the only ones at the base camp, and they'll host groups of over 300 people there. And so sometimes it requires more staff than we required. But we have lots more to tell you about our Mexico mission trip. And if you have any questions, please find one of us and ask, and we'd love to tell you about it. But we're out of time, so we're going to go to More Than Coffee. So let's close our time here in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just lift up the Lopez Alcazar family and the families that we met in Mexico. And I just pray that you will bless them, and they will feel the love that we had for them, and the love that sent us there to help them. Dear God, I pray you'll bless One Mission's purpose in Mexico, and their group, and all the people who go down there to build houses. And I just pray that you will give their organization success as they try to share your gospel and lift the community of Puerto Penasco out of poverty and homelessness. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for just the experience that those of us got to have on this trip, and the way that you touched our hearts through these people. And I pray that you will bless them. I pray this in your name. Amen.